Hello, and welcome to the Bigger Than Us podcast. I'm your host, Raj Daniels, and today I'd like to welcome Blake Bassett to the show. Blake is currently the managing partner and co founder of StepTire. StepTire is a company trying to give hope traction by reprocessing old car tires into soles for shoes. The mission of the company is not only to give hope traction, but also to teach a man to fish by building self contained manufacturing facilities that can be placed anywhere in the world to allow locals to learn how to make the soles and sell shoes. Blake, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, Raj. How are you?
Blake, I'm doing fantastic. And I have to tell you out of the gate, we at Nexus PMG are already fans of your product. One of our co founders owns some of your slippers and he can't stop raving about them.
Oh, that's great. So that was our first rattle out of the bag was some flip flops, and so we've kind of expanded on to some shoes. But yes, I'm glad to hear that.
Blake, I'd like to kick the show off with something interesting about you that, people might not be aware.
Well, so I was got out of college at Texas Christian University and joined the workforce, and I've been a banker for 21 years. Always had an entrepreneurial spirit and did some investing in some small companies, but was always kind of a little leery to take the leap. And I'll tell you, Step Tire was something that I believed in so much that it was just kind of time to, pull the safety rope and say, let's go for this. So being a career banker and then leaving to go start a company is not what a lot of bankers do once you get the golden handcuffs and the security net of a bank. But that's probably one of the most interesting things.
That is definitely not the banker's trajectory. So it must have been compelling to pull you in this direction. What was it about the opportunity?
I think it's just that the opportunity was bigger than me and my business partner. It's really when you look at the business as a whole and what our mission is. I think it is so much about being able to give back and try to help others, and that's kind of where the line "Giving Hope Traction" came from. This business really started out of a mission trip that Ian and his father were over in Uganda, and they were putting in running water and septic systems and solar panels for the hospital and schools, and Ian just really noticed, you know what, none of these kids have shoes, and a lot of the adults don't have shoes either, and there's so much disease that comes from that, but also it's just these kids run around and their feet just become so calloused, and it's really an issue that we thought, okay, what can we do here? But some of the adults that had shoes were made out of tire, and it was really about, okay, we can't dedicate it, pick up, leave our jobs, move to Uganda. We have families here that we have to support as well. But what can we do to give these people hope? And so it was twofold, right? One was, how can we help get them shoes? But two, how can we help them earn a wage or help support their village? And that's kind of where this whole business came from. And I think that's what made me take the leap to leave the bank. But it was just so much bigger than me and my business partner and what we thought we could do and what we're praying that we can do. Is give hope traction to people all around the world.
In the intro, I gave a brief insight into StepTire, but if you can give a broader overview about StepTire, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Okay, so Step Tire is a company that we use all recycled tires for the soles of our shoes. So right now in the United States, we get tires from local tire shops. We get tires from our recycler, All American Tire Recycling, that's over in Kennedale, and great people, great young couple that have started that business, and they're working very closely with us because they are also believe in the mission that we're trying to do. So what we do is we acquire tires, and then we tear off the sidewalls, and then we cut the tire in half, and then we strip the top piece of the tread off the tire, and that is what is a sole, because you don't want the steel and everything that's in the tire on the shoe. So our shoes are actually way less than a pound. They're really, really light. And then the tops are made with recycled water bottles. So that's kind of a little bit about the shoe is us taking tires, keeping them out of the landfill. We're processing them here. Once we're finished with them and we get all that we can out of them, then we take them to our tire recycler, who's 100% green, and he turns it into mulch, the rubber, and then he recycles all the steel. So he's got a fascinating piece of equipment. Chews up tires. Out of one chute at the end of it, it spits out mulch, and out the other side, it spits steel. So it's a fascinating piece of machine. So what we do from that point is we have created, and the hardest part of this business has been creating a self-functioning manufacturing facility. And so what we did is we took a 40-foot shipping container and we've put all the equipment in that 40-foot shipping container so that it can be dropped anywhere. The first one we will be sending to Uganda. We're finishing up some loose ends on that. But once that drops over there, they go and source their tires and they will process them just like we do here in the United States. So it helps them over there get the tires, which are readily available everywhere in the world, but they cause a lot of problems everywhere in the world. They have a lot of void space. They're hard to transport. They hold water. They create mosquito havens, malaria, all these different things that come from tires, and they're just a bad thing for the environment. So that's kind of where we were trying to say, okay, if we deploy these self-contained manufacturing facilities, what's the fuel, right? The fuel is tires because they're available everywhere. So that's kind of our mission, is to teach a man to fish. The proverb says,
Hmm.
give a man a fish he can eat for a day. You teach him to fish, he can eat the rest of his life. And so that's really where we are, is trying to make sure that we are supporting them, but also giving them something to work for and to, be proud of. So in the United States, when we sell a pair of shoes, we donate materials. We do not donate shoes. We donate materials to these micro factories once they're up and running. So today we just donate shoes, but once we have the first factory up, we will be donating materials versus a completed shoe. So it's kind of, we want to help, but we also, help yourself, right? So it's kind of stemming people to have a little pride in what they're doing, and then they can sell those and do what they can to raise money for their villages and those kind of things. So that's kind of the overall big picture of what we're trying to do.
So the equipment you use to manufacture the shoes, did you have to custom build it?
Some of it we did, absolutely. There was not machinery to um, process the tire the exact way we do. There was some machines that are available, for example, cutting the sidewall off and some of that stuff. We were able to source those machines, but there's a couple pieces of machines, I apologize, that were not readily available that we had to design, and so we're proud of that.
Where do you source your bottles from?
So right now, all the tops, which are the recycled water bottle, all the top right now comes from China and Vietnam. So they have a plant that recycles all these bottles. There's a couple other shoe companies that are out there doing that, and we thought, what a great way to help the environment. If we can source the same materials, we will. And so I think as more companies get involved in trying to become more eco-friendly, it's a great thing for everyone. It's not something that's proprietary toward us, but we want to join the wagon and say, look, if we can get everybody doing this, we can help solve some problems that we have.
And in your experience of doing this, is there a particular brand of tire that works better than another?
No, not really. We probably have the most trouble with like big off-road mud terrain type tires, and then like semi trucks and stuff like that that are a lot thicker and heavier ply. We have some trouble with those, but we're working on solutions because we want to be able to process 100% of the tires. But so there's not a brand that is easier to use or that works better. But some of the different load ranges and different use of those tires. For example, semi trucks; those are really hard for us to process. So we have not figured that out just yet.
How do you power one of these manufacturing units?
Well, they'll mostly be done with solar. If they don't have electricity, it just depends on where they're being placed. We have an organization that's looking at placing 3 of them, and they say that they have the power capabilities to do it. And then we're also going to be doing some with solar power.
So it sounds like an eco-friendly operation all the way around.
Well, that's what we're trying to do. Yes, sir. That's our goal.
So, you kind of touched on this earlier, and you mentioned your partner's father, being in Uganda. One of the questions or areas I like to really explore is the why. You mentioned you're a banker, you're compelled to move over and to do this business, but is there something that from your childhood or from your previous experiences that have like driven you in this direction? What's your why for doing this?
My why is really giving back. I feel like I've been fortunate, and I want to do something to help others. It's a trait that we try to instill in our kids, and my wife and I have been very involved in our church and some special needs ministries and different things that we just want people to have the opportunity to work and to succeed. And I think that that's really the why is we want to do we want to do good, and that's something that my partner and I both believe in. And I can tell you, running a startup and trying to get this running, it tests your patience every day. But it's again, when we sit down and even in your most frustrating times, you can sit here and say, but if we can get this going, look what we can do. And that's really what keeps you going is being able to help others. That's why we do this on a daily basis, is we want to help others.
That's beautiful. What is the grand vision? Let's say magic wand 5 years from now. Where do you see Step Tire? What do you see as far as deployment, etc.?
Yeah, so 5 years from now, I would love nothing more to have 20 or 30 mobile containers set up where those people are being successful, where they're selling shoes, they're designing shoes, um, and really making a difference in their local economy. The other thing that my grand vision is that hopefully we can have these mobile manufacturing facilities designing shoes where they say, okay, look, here's one that is native to Uganda, right? And we produce those for them to sell there. But that we could actually offer those for sale in the United States. And they would get the proceeds of that. I think it would be really a neat thing to be able to say, okay, this is one that was designed by the Uganda team. This one was designed by Zimbabwe, wherever they were, that we can sell and give them the proceeds because it's obviously a different scenario, right? Over there, they may be able to sell flip flops for $5, $10. It just depends until how they can transport them. Can they get them to the markets? Those kind of things. Where we can sell them, or we have to sell them more over here because of U.S. labor and those kind of things. But it's really that would be an awesome thing. Would be able to not only have our manufacturing facilities deployed everywhere, but to be able to have them help in designing shoes and things that are native to their area. I think that would be really awesome.
That's a lovely vision. Now, do you donate the manufacturing facility? Do they buy it? How does that structure
Yeah,
work?
so we work with charitable organizations, and so far the ones that we have people that are ready to go are charitable organizations, and so Step Tire does not this they do not make profit on the containers. It's just the actual cost of getting it built and getting it deployed, and then we go over and do some training. But that's it. That's how. So charitable organizations or who we're working with. And it's a great fit because charitable organizations often become frustrated with they provide funds, they provide funds, they provide funds, and it's very difficult for people to take that and become self-sustaining. So at the end of the day, charities get pulled on because they've already put so much money into an organization, and then at the end of the day, it's like, but if you don't keep providing this financial support, we're just going to go back to where we were. And so charitable organizations look at this and they say, wow, this is really something amazing that does teach them how to fish. It does give them pride. It does give them hope. It does give them something to sell. It does give them, something that they can support themselves with. And so that's the thing that, again, we're most excited about is just being able to get one deployed and get it in action to prove out the theory. But we have a ton of interest in getting them done. We're just we've got one more piece that we've got to finish up, but we'll be getting one deployed here in the first half of the year.
And what's the cost of one of your units, the entire manufacturing, the 40-foot container?
So the container, the retrofit of the container, everything right now is about $75,000 to $80,000. We're working on that to see what we can do. It also depends on how many raw materials for shoes we put in there. So that's a big variable. Is how many, because it all can ship together, and that's the easiest way to do it. So there's a variable component of all
And a rough timeline to build one?
It's about a month and change.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah,
You must have
so
that
it's
process down.
well, the container's right there. We just have to modify, put some doors. We have to get equipment put in it, bolt it down, kind of get all the shelving and everything put in. So it's not a extensive project.
I've been reading a lot about repurposing of containers here recently. There's an office building complex in South Fort Worth that are using containers, and I'm hearing about housing containers. How did the idea of containers come to you?
Um, because there's so many of them. I think it's a safe and secure environment. It's something that they can close down, shut doors, lock up, and they're safe. So safety is obviously something that you want to have. But there are a lot of them out there. We import a lot of products, and so they when they've gone to their useful life for the sea, it's they're they're used for housing, and it's great to see people using them for different things. I've been to a lot of hunting camps, and they will make their houses and their mudrooms and all those kind of things out of shipping containers. It's a great use of the product.
It really is, and it plays right into the reusing or recycling of goods. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned countries in Africa a few times. Are there any other places in the world you're looking at?
That's where we have started, just because that's where the organizations that have come to us are interested in going. We think there's potential everywhere. I think there's potential in Mexico. I think there's potential everywhere. There's people that could use a helping hand all over this world. I mean, I've even thought, as crazy as it may sound, is some charitable organizations in the United States in impoverished areas of the city, being able to put one and helping those people out. I think it's kind of endless of where they can be deployed. It's just that's where we've kind of focused on at first because of the people that are interested in working with us. That's kind of where their focus is.
So have you patented your process?
We have not. We have a design patent on a couple things that we're working on, but we have not.
So it could be very realistic where people could actually pay you for your patent and then build it in their countries.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
People could pay you for licensing your patent and then build one in their country.
Sure. Yeah. And we're all about trying to figure out ways to make it work everywhere. So we're interested in working with people and doing whatever we can to help their cause.
So as I mentioned earlier, one of the co-founders here, Roshan, he loves them. What kind of feedback have you received from people that have bought your flip-flops so far?
Oh, we've received great feedback. Very comfortable, and yeah, the men's and the ladies. We have two versions, flip flops. So we have the men's and women's version that we built in arch support. We built in a comfort level. Really, our goal when we started was, okay, we're going to make a comfortable, fashionable, well-made shoe. So we've really kind of stuck to that. And our new shoe line, I don't know if you've seen that on our website, but they're called the Momentum shoes, and they are actually we're getting a lot of great reviews on those. But it's really making sure we have something that's comfortable, that's stylish, and that people will wear. So that's really
I,
our goals.
I was going to ask you about your upcoming models. I believe you said you have a February release. Is that correct?
So our Momentum shoes have been released for the women. The men's will be coming. It'll probably be early March before we have the men's version. But we do have the women's shoe available. So we have a slip-on shoe. It's a casual walking shoe, and then we have two lace versions. So they're really stylish looking. They're comfortable. So yeah, check them out. Steptire.com is the website, and that line is called the Momentum line.
I will for sure, and I'll also put a link to your site in the show notes. So, Blake, switching gears a little bit, one of the questions I like to ask my guest is, if you could give some advice to the audience, what would it be?
My advice to the audience would be, don't give up. um, it, it's uh, it's my first real adventure into being running a startup by myself. I mean, I have a partner, but of going at it where you're by yourself trying to figure out, okay, how do we do this? And you come into roadblocks, you come into all kinds of things. Um, but really, it's just about not giving up and staying to your vision. And I think that's one thing that is so important that we have created here is, what is our mission? Okay, if we give up, we're letting our mission go, which our mission is to help a bunch of people. Try to, and so that keeps you going. But you got to have something you believe in, but don't give up. I think that would be my best advice.
I love the idea of not giving up. And you kind of mentioned it earlier about your why and it takes you through the hard times. Has there been perhaps a time where you felt like giving up and something, pulled you through?
I don't think there's ever been a time that I really thought I got to give this up. That there is. So we made one shoe that I thought was going to be a really simple process. It was going to be we were going to be able to cut the rubber. We were going to be able to stamp the sole. We were going to be able to glue it, punch the straps. It was going to be very easy. And it turned out it's our hardest shoe to make. It's the simplest shoe, but it's really difficult. And you sit there and you say, "Golly, we created and we spent time and energy and money creating the shoe that we thought would be a very simple, everyday shoe that a lot of women wear." And we thought this is going to be great. And it just turned out, wow, this is really difficult. And everything's a little bit harder than you think it is another thing that I've learned. But again, it was like, okay, if this is going to take too much labor, it's going to cost too much time. Maybe we have to either figure out a better way to do it, or we've got to discontinue, right? Because we do have a lot of U.S. labor, which is important. That's another thing of our company is that we want to build as much as we can and do everything we can in the United States. And so that's probably the one time that was the hardest for us, was saying, okay, this thing should be really simple, and it wasn't. So I think that's probably the only time that I was like, God, this is really something else.
So do all your friends and family receive shoes for gifts?
That's all they get. And ridicule when they're not wearing them. How about that?
That's pretty
It's like I
amazing.
went from not caring what anybody had on their feet to that's all I look at. Walking around malls, walking around wherever you are, I'm always looking at people's feet, and it's just kind of it's interesting just because it was not anything that ever concerned me or I cared about. I'm not I like nice shoes, but I don't. It was never something that I thought about on an everyday basis. Oh, what do people think of my shoes?
Well, I look forward to getting some myself. Blake, are there any last thoughts or words you have for the audience before we go?
No, I really appreciate your time, Raj, talking with me. And if people want to come and see what we're doing, I welcome them. Just give us a call. We'd love to show them around. And I know that you're planning on coming out to see exactly how we're manufacturing everything. And we'd love support. So visit steptire.com and check it out. And if it's something that interests you, we'd love to have you as a customer. And if they don't work out exactly right, we'll make it right. So I appreciate the time and you recognizing what we're doing, and we're just trying to do our part.
Blake, I appreciate you. It's been a fun conversation. I look forward to coming by your operation.
All right. Thank you so much, Raj. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.